think that this place is truly living out the meaning of the word sanctuary. And by that I don't mean the beautiful building. I really mean the place that creates a safe environment for people to re-explore a way of living out their spiritual religious life in community.
There's a kind of bold, almost reckless quality to the assumption that you can have a thriving, not just a marginal, but a thriving religious community that is decidedly not like the dominant way of life. And yet it resembles any other church.
I think it resonates with people searching for a place that allows them to ask questions, to incorporate a variety of aspects of their spiritual journeys, their learning journeys, their service journeys. A ministry connected to education and a ministry connected to pastoral care is really about people more than it is about the programs I'm responsible for or even my role as a pastor.
There's as many different stories as there are people out there.
My message of you belong here means, yes, even if no one else wants to hear you, we will give you a hearing. Not because you're right, but because unless we hear all the points of view, we will inevitably close ranks around a partial truth, not a whole truth.
I really want to know what gifts people want to bring, what are their passions, and how can we match that passion with some need that we have.
And when I bump into people on both sides of need and ability in that, who are helping each other in different ways, that's when I'm most inspired. The question is, can we pick up the energy that both honors the great traditions and speaks them in a way that's relevant to what happened in the newspaper yesterday?
gather for worship. Some of us come for comfort. Some come for challenge. Some of us are hungry for change, and some of us are resistant to change. No matter, a change of rhythms greets many of us as summer days begin to shorten and become fewer. Can you feel it? Like it's almost the end of August and September's coming. A change of seasons, of work, of school, of leisure, and perhaps to a change of mind, a change of heart. Sam Keen, in Hymns to an Unknown God, writes, quote, "The great metaphors from all spiritual traditions, grace, liberation, being born again, awakening from illusion, testify that it is possible to transcend the conditioning of one's past and to do a new thing." End quote. In the book of the prophet Isaiah in the Hebrew Bible, it reads, "I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth, do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." What desert in our lives is thirsty for a river? What wilderness of the heart calls to be explored in your life? Please join with me for our responsive reading. Earth, teach me quiet as the grasses are still with new light.
Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory.
Earth, teach me humility as blossoms are humble with beginning.
Earth, teach me limitations as the ant that crawls on the ground.
Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle that soars in the sky.
Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep with rain.
Good morning. And welcome to Fountain Street Church. I am Reverend Elizabeth Barnum, one of the ministers here, and on behalf of my colleagues and the Religious Services Committee, I extend a welcome to you to our summer chapel series. We're nearing the end, just 2 more Sundays, today and next Sunday, Labor Day weekend. I say this every time at these summer services when I lead, that it's such a delight to hear such a diversity of voices all summer long. People who speak to such a wide variety of themes, and all of which seek to do what we do here at Fountain Street, which is to help craft one's spiritual journey for creative and responsible action in the world. We hope that being in the company of one another this morning is a meaningful step in that journey for you. So we are delighted that Bruce Ling is here with us this morning to speak. I do hope you get the chance to read his bio in the order of service, a person of many talents, as those words will attest. We see him around here a lot, including in this space, working on all sorts of electrical wiring and stuff like that is beyond my comprehension. So it's quite amazing. And we also welcome Karen Albert, who will be singing today, and thank you for sharing your voice with us as well. And as always, thank you, Marilyn, for your gifts that you share with us every week. So this is the time of year our announcements start to increase a bit as we get ready for the program year. I encourage you to take a look at the notes in the order of service, to visit our website, to watch your inbox for the electronic communications that will be coming in the next couple of weeks as we prepare for the opening of the program year. We begin our fall through spring schedule on September 11th with our 9:30 and 11 o'clock services, as well as all of our educational program for children and youth. If you're here with us for the first time or have young ones with you, Every Sunday, we do have nursery care or child care this week and next week upstairs on the second floor. And then on September 11th and the weeks following are programs for middle school youth and high school youth, and elementary children begin again for the year. So if you have any questions after worship, be sure to find me, and I'd be happy to speak with you. Also, save the date. There's an all-church picnic on September 18th. September 18th. And so, may this time be one of reflection, one of pause in busy days, of connection, and also of words, of music that not only stir the soul, but also soothe the soul. And as we prepare to hear our next selection, I leave you with these words by John O'Donohue. I would love to live like a river flows, carried by the surprise of its own unfolding.
With its crystal
When I saw the theme of Bruce's talk today, choices and changes, the first book that I thought of was one that was on my summer reading list. It's called Falling Upward, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life by Richard Rohr. I don't know if you're familiar with Richard Rohr, but he's a Franciscan priest. He's based in New Mexico. He prolific writer. I've read a lot of his books in recent years, and very much a mystic who happens to use Christian language to describe that experience of his. And anyone feel like they've had two halves of life? Anyone? Yeah, right. Everyone talks about some of those big changes that might happen at midlife, or at different developmental stages. Maybe there's like four halves or whatnot, and four halves. Yeah, right. That adds up, right? Right. And it's just I've been, after I read it once, I've been rereading it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book. And I'm going to read a section of that for us this morning. And in this section, it's right in the middle of the book. And he writes about a Spanish philosopher named Miguel de Unamuno. And it's talking about the tragic sense of life, right? When I hear the word choices and changes, right, I think about both what we can control and what we can't control, right? I'll just start at the beginning. The exact phrase, the tragic sense of life, was first popularized in the early 20th century by the Spanish philosopher Miguel de Unamuno, who courageously told his European world that they had distorted the meaning of faith by aligning it with the Western philosophy of progress, rather than what he saw as rather evident in the Judeo-Christian scriptures. Jesus and the Jewish prophets were fully at home with the tragic sense of life, and it made the shape and nature of reality very different for them, and maybe still for us. Life is not, nor ever has been, a straight line forward. According to him, life is characterized much more by exception and disorder than by total or perfect order. Life, as the biblical tradition makes clear, is both loss and renewal, death and resurrection, chaos and healing at the same time. Life seems to be a collision of opposites. Unamuno equates the notion of faith with trust in an underlying life force so strong that it even includes death. Faith also includes reason, but it is a larger category than reason. Truth is not always about pragmatic problem solving and making things work, but about reconciling contradictions. Just because something might have some dire effects does not mean it is not true or even good. Just because something pleases people does not make it true either. Life is inherently tragic, and that is the truth that only faith, but not our seeming logic, can accept. In our time, it is quantum physics that shows how true his explanations might really be. Most of us were formed by Newtonian worldviews in which everything had a clear cause and equal effect. What might be called an if-then worldview. All causality was clear and defined. The truth we are now beginning to respect is that the universe seems to proceed through a web of causes, just as human motivation does, producing ever-increasing diversity, multiplicity, dark holes, dark matter, death and rebirth, loss and renewal in different forms. Nature is much more disorder than order, more multiplicity than uniformity, with the greatest disorder being death itself. In the spiritual life, and now in science, we learn much more by honoring and learning from the exceptions than by just imposing our previous certain rules to make everything fit.
So from Richard Rohr, Falling Upward.
Tis the gift to be simple, tis the gift to be free, tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right. Tis the gift to be simple, tis the gift to be free, tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right.
Morning, folks. Well, in the springtime, I got an email from Fountain Street Church asking if I would be willing to talk a little bit at a sermon during the summer. And I said, sure. And what's your schedule? And I picked a date here. At the end of summer, we have a busy music festival season. And so this weekend is one that we didn't have anything going on. I said, yeah, immediately. I didn't even hesitate. Wow, that's something. I usually do this with music, but public speaking, I don't speak much, but I play a lot. I didn't have a choice in the matter, actually, whether I would agree or not. Oh, this whole sermon's about choices and changes. Well, what happened, I guess, is that years ago, I had decided that I would follow the Spirit of creation, and whatever I felt in my heart to immediately launch into. So when I was asked if I would speak, I immediately said yes. I felt that in my heart. And then came the email, well, what are you going to speak about? I said, choices. Yeah, choices and changes. I've been through a lot of choices in my life, as I'm sure we all have, and the changes that come through those choices is a fantastic thing. I didn't have a choice because I had already set myself on a path. And there's a lot of different choices. I'm not talking about to do this or to do that or make the decision, but the types of choices that are born of a commitment to something, choices that are born out of fear. We make a choice based on fear of something, a choice based on our ego or what we will accomplish or get for ourselves. And so many different types of choices, and it's really important when you're faced with a decision to see what type of choice that is that we're being faced with. I'll share this with you. When I was a young man, I was a pretty angry young man. Another thing too on the whole choice business. I've been doing this in front of people for a long time. I came from a musical family. I started playing guitar when I was 4. I started making money at it when I was 8, playing with a number of other teenagers in garage bands on the south side of Chicago. So I've been doing this, and this is part of my nature. Mostly playing, not speaking part of it, or singing. So that was another aspect of accepting that request for me to come out and talk. But when I was a young person, I came from a very dysfunctional family. There's a lot of alcohol and prescription drug abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and I became a very angry young man. About the age of 12, I started feeling this anger, and I started hanging out with other angry young men, which is a recipe for disaster, as it were. By the time I hit 16, we had driver's licenses, and we were going and having encounters with other angry young men in other small towns, people that were disenfranchised and didn't have clear direction. Through all these different violent, sometimes, encounters, once I got stabbed in a fight. And when I was recuperating from that, I had an epiphany, and I realized that I had directly chosen to be stabbed. How you say, how could somebody choose to be stabbed? I started thinking about the whole course of events that had led me to that part of my life. The choosing to hang out with those individuals that had a violent proclivity. When I chose to hang out with these associates, these other angry young men, I was also choosing every possibility that could come along through this type of attitude that they had. And tapping into that, I wound up getting knifed. I had an epiphany, as I said, and I looked at the whole situation very objectively, which was a pretty good thing for a 16-year-old kid to become very objective about something. And I saw the course of my actions and what led me to that point. And I decided I was going to do something about it, which immediately I ceased any communication with these people that I'd hanging out with and found new friends. And actually I spent a couple of years by myself just trying to figure out what's going on. And in doing so, I started attracting people to me that were, water seeks its own level type of thing. The company that you keep will dictate the experiences that you will have in the future, your choices. Changing your future requires being in the present moment. If you are in a point where you decide to make some sort of change, you can't make those changes based on what could have happened or what should have happened or what you would have done. Everything rests in the present moment. From there, that's the only place where you can have clarity for the future. You want to create a good future for yourself. It happens in the present moment. You have to release any of the past that you might be carrying around with you. And from there, you'll move forward. And it requires objectivity. We're so subjective with what will people think of us. We make choices based on that. What can I get out of it? We make choices based out of that. And I imagine in your minds, every one of us has our own story and our own place where we've made choices from. Some fantastic choices, and some choices that didn't do us very well. One of the things I've had in my life, and I'm very fortunate, since I was a very young child, I've had older people in my life, mentors that have given me direction. Most of the time I didn't pay heed until I started hitting my 40s, and I started thinking, wow, yeah, that made a lot of sense. And now, entering into my 60s, I see the even more so the value of all these words. But I had been told since I was a small child to view things objectively, to look at what will be the future results of your actions, and by these folks that have taken me under their wing. And the whole crux of the matter and this has been given me many times, is to make choices based upon the greatest good. We have to remove ourselves from the situation. We have to remove our egos from the situation. We have to think of what will be the best for everybody involved, and therefore make our choices from there. I had a short note on that. I had a dear friend of mine said that I'd become a much better businessman if I kept bees. And I said, okay. And I listened to everything he tells me because I've prospered under his advice. So he brought over a hive of bees, and I started paying attention to these bees. The first year, they stung the living dickens out of me. I just couldn't get a handle on these bees, but I kept at it, and then I learned how to listen to them. And they started teaching me how to handle them. And now I can go up and open the top lid on a hive in a pair of shorts and no shirt and no bonnet, and just to check on them, and they don't bother me. I listen to them. But one of the things I learned about these honeybees is they prosper based on selflessness. Each one of those honeybees is thinking about the next honeybee. They're not thinking about themselves. And I took that lesson and applied that to my decision making, my choice making as well, thinking about the greatest good. There are situations that arise that are totally unexplainable. The tragic car accident, the cancer, the disasters. And so everything that happens because of choices, individual choices, governmental choices and whatnot. But I try to wrap my head around some of these things that are unexplained. And I'll bring this up here because this is Fountain Street Church. People are liberal thinking here. And so I have learned a long time ago that I am a spirit having a physical experience here. And I was taught that, and the more I dwelt on that, the more I realized that. And also, the things that have happened in my life that are totally unexplained, I take solace in knowing that as a spirit, having a physical experience, maybe I might have written some sort of contract as a spirit, so that while I'm here, I might learn to be, I don't know, a better human, a better spirit. Maybe there's a past life thing going on where I'm resolving issues in that. So when something unexplained occurs to me in my life or the life of those around me, I take solace in the knowledge that there is a mystery where a choice has been made. I'll leave you with these words that I fed to my babies, my two children. Both of them are totally successful in what they do. They're shining individuals in their individual communities and influence others in fantastic ways. And as soon as they opened their eyes, I started telling them, based on my own experiences, that in every situation there are two choices. And there's no gray area between these choices. There's a definite line of demarcation. One choice will launch you into a bright, shining future filled with love and prosperity, your heart's desire. The other choice will create demons that will haunt your every waking and sleeping moment, creating an anchor that'll hold you in place. You won't be able to reach your full potential, so choose wisely. Peace to you all.
One of my colleagues back in New England, Bruce, you made me think of this, would often say to her children whenever they got out of the car, going to some event or a gathering, make good choices, make good choices. So as we leave this space, this place, this day, make good choices. And may you follow the spirit of creation. Know that there is a way in the wilderness, a desert in the river. May the choices you make be empowered ones. May you flow like a river, surprised by its own unfolding, the changes that come unexpectedly and unbidden even. And may the volume of your life, the volume control, may there be a quieting of the ego and an amplifying of the soul. And may we each abide in the present moment. Our worship is ended, but our service in the world begins again. Go in peace.